You're very prolific in the business world and biznews.com. Explain to me how biznews.com came about.
1997, I discovered this thing called the internet and started Manny Wave above my garage at home, listed it on the JSE in 99, built it over many years. It wasn't that easy because the bandwidth in South Africa, you might remember, was being quite constrained. So we took a long time to get into the internet economy, but the business was always profitable and it was going quite nicely. I had a few personal issues in around about 2008, 2009, and then took a sabbatical. It wasn't meant to be a sabbatical, it was meant to be a relocation to the Midlands of KZN to go and farm horses. We started building our new life, my wife and I, and we, 2 years into it, I was broadcasting nationally on SAFM and running the editorial team at Manny Wave, the company I'd created. We'd brought in a new chief executive. During that time, Caxton became the controlling shareholder. The new chief executive was terribly ambitious. He wanted Caxton to inject all of their digital operations in there, which they said fine as long as they get a big chunk. And it so happened that Manny Wave ended up with a lot of money with Caxton's digital program, which was then later reversed out. So the whole thing was really quite sad. And I was down to 18%. My ex-wife sold her shares. So from a controlling position, suddenly I had 18%. Then the cables were stolen of the radio studio. Well, all the telecom cables in the district were stolen, including my radio studio, which is now suddenly out of service. I had to decide, do I want to continue farming or do I want to continue eating? And I think eating won.
That's a miracle.
So I came back to Johannesburg, resigned from Manny Wave, said to the guys, look, I want out. And the Caxton people convinced me in a very lengthy afternoon discussion to stay, they would get rid of the CEO who'd been brought in. He hadn't really shone, so it wasn't difficult. And I took over and got it back into profit, which was great. Remember, I still had quite a big stake in the company. And I've often found that with corporates, while things are in trouble, they don't really interfere. But when things are going well again, everybody's a genius. And that's what happened. I got a few geniuses coming in there to start telling me how to run things. And I said, fine, well, you rather run it your way and let me leave. So I left, and here we are. A year later, I left on gardening leave. I had a service contract of a year's notice. And they issued notice and said, we'll pay you, just don't do anything that's negative to the business. So off I go on my gardening leave, and I start writing to my newsletter subscribers, which I'd started the newsletter before I started Manny Wave, literally in 1996. Manny Wave really started in 98. It was registered in 98. And the corporate says, that's our mailing list. So I said, no, it isn't. It's mine. I'm the only one who's ever written to them. And the corporate said, no, we think it's ours. So we said, fine. By the way, this is all through lawyers. As you can imagine, these things get a little expensive. So we said, let's go to arbitration. We said to them, and last I heard that was what was going to happen, until I got documents like this, Tony. High Court documents. They sued me in the High Court for my own mailing list. Now you do one of two things. You either say, I'm going to fight this on principle and go bankrupt, or you say, take it. And I did the latter. I said, but up until that point, I really was going to just take it easy. I was going to do a bit of writing. I've been commissioned to do a book. I really was. And I thought, no. It irritated me so that I said, well, okay, let's see. If you are that scared of me, then maybe I should go into competition with you. And I then started BizNews, literally. On the strength of that stupid decision of theirs. BizNews started from nothing. It had no mailing list. Fortunately, I had been active on social media, so I've got quite a nice Twitter following and a Facebook page, quite well followed, those two. And that's how it began. And the last 3 months, we've had over 200,000 unique visitors. I mean, there's been spikes. It happens in the internet. You get a story that goes viral. But even so, take the spikes away, and it is crazy. Our core audience is probably 100,000 people, which is amazing. We have an anniversary on the 4th of August.
Well, you're virtually a streaming station, aren't you?
No. BizNews is very much We're a combination of everything I've learned over the last 15 years.
Without going into absolute finite detail, where do you get your information from?
I have a really good team of journalists. We have access to social media today, where information is just falling over itself. And of course, we also subscribe to Reuters, SAPA, who do a damn fine job. You know, the wires they're underrated. So often in the newspaper industry, which is where I come from originally, we used to look down on anybody using Reuters or SAPA copy. Now I say, hang on, these guys, they've got some good people there, and so we use some of their content as well. But we also get flooded with information from people who just want to contribute. They just want to have their voices heard.